Hey y'all! Well, here to do a follow-up review on the PSvane Summit 300B tubes. And I got my direct heated amps here. Here's the 283 we just finished up on that to me sounded really nice with these Horizon tubes, just the whole set of them. The 274B rectifier, 283 output tubes, 6SL7 driver tubes, all from the Horizon line, sounded really nice. Now, when I tried those in my 300B, it was a little too edgy. And I ended up having to use different driver tubes than the Horizon 6 SN7s with their 300B output tubes. And just use some Sylvania new old stock seemed to work really well to kind of take the edge off of it. But it didn't sound as good as my EML 300B tubes and these CV181-Z Shugi Treasure tubes, which really seemed like a good match to the EML output tubes. And so they sent me a set of the Horizon 300B tubes, and let me clean this amp out of the way so we can put the box up here and show you what that looks like. So here are the tubes we're looking at. We got the Emission Labs 300B solid plate, which is just their standard 300B tube, and then we got the PSvane Summit, which is their newest release on a 300B tube. And again, we're pretty high up in the 300B tube market, so these aren't cheap tubes, but let's look at the difference in them. Here's a close-up of the EML or Emission Labs tube, and you can see the plate structure has got a lot of support. It's got some horizontal elements supporting the plate, got some rods in it that the other tube doesn't have. And then the inside of the PSvane tube looks like this. It's a more traditional plate shape. It looks a lot like their 2A3 tube or some of their other 300B tubes, but sonically it's very different. So let's go over the amplifier. Again, we're using these Shugi CV181, which is a variant of a 6SN7. It's their -Z black plated or black coated internally tubes, which have a, I consider, a neutral presentation. They work really well with these EML tubes when I was testing, and I rolled through a bunch of 6SN7 tubes, and that's what I ended up with. So I decided to test both, and then if I felt like, the Summit tube really wasn't performing well or it was fatiguing, I could try rolling some different tubes, but I was hopeful I could just use the same input tubes, and we did. Using ISO Tango FC30S 3.5 2s, which are their latest version of their 300B output transformer. These things are rock star output transformer. And my other basic 300B circuit that I've gotten really good results from. So I'm confident with this and my Quad S2 speakers that it's going to be highly revealing and be able to discern like what these are all about. So when I initially went from the 300B-Z 300B tubes to these Emission Labs, it was really an eye-opener to me about thinking now I understand what people rave about 300B amps about. It had that just lush mid-range, had great bass, had a lot of detail. It had the sound stage, and just the speakers just disappeared in the room. And I've been very happy with these tubes. They've been super reliable. The bias has stayed stable over the time I've had them, which has been probably close to a year now. And so they've just been kind of my go-to speakers and my go-to amp. This is what I listen to most of the time. And this is the circuit and everything that I'm going to be building for my new 300B amps that I'm coming out with, including everything from the basic up to the ultra. They're all going to have pretty much the same signal path circuit, which I found to work really well with these. So anyway, you're here to hear about what these tubes sound like. And again, these Emission Labs tubes have a really lush, thick mid-range without being sloppy. They've got nice bass response. They're very transparent, and they sound like a 300B really should. So it's a pretty high bar for this Summit tube to compete on, and I think it's done exceptionally well. This tube, the speakers disappeared. This tube is just a little more open. It's got that kind of air outdoor sound to it that I've really been striving for or looking for in my amplifiers, and I think I found it. And I'm not sure if it's because there's more kind of open, or the globe kind of shape of this bottle being a little bigger gives the plate and the elements and the electrons room to breathe inside the tube, or what's going on, but it's got a fantastic sound. And the question then becomes, is it better than the EML tube? And I'm going to say it's different. I'm not going to say it's better. I'm not going to say it's worse. They both have strong points, and I feel that I'm fortunate to be able to own both sets. And I can see now that I'm probably going to be swapping back and forth between these tubes to kind of get something different to listen to. And I wouldn't say, don't buy these, or vice versa. I don't think you're going to go wrong buying either one. And I do feel like that this is a huge step up from the Horizon 300B tube. And it's interesting that the Horizon 2A3 tube sounds so good, and it makes me wonder if making a 2A3 tube is just a lot easier than making a good 300B tube, because I really think that until you step up to this price point, that a 300B amp just isn't going to sound like it really should. And so I'm giving, I know this is, some of y'all will be pissed, but it's like, I'm giving 2 thumbs up to both of these tubes. I don't think you're going to go wrong buying either one. I think it could depend on the speakers that you have, which one might sound better. Like I said, these have a more kind of open, outdoorsy kind of sound to them, where this is more kind of an intimate nightclub kind of sound, if that makes sense. And again, we're lucky that we've got both these tube manufacturers making tubes at this quality level for us to choose from, or to get both and have something different to swap between. Neither one of these tubes are going to disappoint. So that's my subjective review of these 2 tubes. And in the future, I may sit down with the audio analyzer suite and just look at the distortion profiles between the 2 different tubes and see if I see anything there. But I didn't want to do that before I really spent some time listening to these tubes. And I will say that both these tubes need at least 24 to 48 hours of playtime to really break in and start sounding their best. And they do change a little bit. They sound okay when you first put them in, but they don't really open up and start sounding good until they've had about 48 hours of playtime. And they, especially the EML, suggest doing that in short sessions of like a couple hours at a time. Don't just play the tube all day when it's brand new, and give it some heat cycles. That they say that helps the filament life. So if you like this content, please subscribe to the channel, please like the video, comment below if you've used either one of these. I know I was waiting on a viewer who said he bought some of these Summit tubes to hear his impression to see if it mirrored what I was hearing, but I decided to go ahead and make the video. So he may weigh in, and if he does, and I hear something back from him, we'll talk about that when we do the more objective testing of the THD and stuff. But again, if you've used either of these tubes, put in the comment below what you think. Again, I don't have any way to test like the long-term reliability. I know these EML tubes are supposed to be super durable and have a really long life. Not saying that these aren't, but until they've been out for a few years, we don't really know. So, I'm not insinuating that they're not going to be a reliable tube, but again, until they've been out for several years and they've been used for thousands of hours, we don't really know what the lifespan's going to be. They both have a nice warranty, so I don't think you're going to do wrong buying either one of these. So, again, thanks for watching. And until the next video, have a nice day.